Hey everybody, I'm Mark Schultz, and you're watching Corn-Fed Life.
Save me a piece of that corn. Good morning. Don't change that channel, even though you might be surprised to see a couple of movie stars in place of your normal corn-fed hosts.
That's right. We were in a little independent movie.
Rest assured, it is still us, even though we've gone Hollywood. And scene. Welcome to another episode of the Corn-Fed Cast, little podcast on the prairie. So what did we just get back from doing over the weekend?
So this weekend we went to a premiere of a little independent film, My Journey, and we both were in it. Like, I was just in it for a second, but he actually had a legitimate part.
Her part was legitimate.
And I wanted to talk with you guys today about our experience in making the film, behind the scenes, and the premiere, and all the excitement, and all the boredom, and whatnot.
Everything that went into it.
So you're the one who had this idea to get involved. So how did you get involved with this?
So one night, we were over at her mom's place, and we were just hanging out and chatting, and I was surfing the tube on my phone, and I tried, when we first moved out here, this was shortly after we moved to this town, and I'd been searching for different Midwest-themed channels, and I had found a channel randomly called News Channel Nebraska, I think it was, and so a little blip popped up about some movie, and so I was like, oh, that looks interesting, and so I watched it. And they were interviewing this young producer who was making a independent movie in Norfolk, Nebraska, home of
Johnny Carson.
That's
Here's
right.
Johnny.
Yeah, and it said that they were having a casting. They were casting for different roles, and it had a link to download the script and all the different parts you could try out for. And it said that they were going to be doing casting through a certain date. And I looked at my calendar and I was like, that's tomorrow. So I told Corrine, I'm going to drive up to Nebraska tomorrow. And it's up in northern Nebraska, kind of eastern Nebraska. And it was about a 5-hour drive or somewhere around there. And I was like, I think I'm going to drive up there and try out for this movie. And I was like, do you want to come? And she was like, nah, I don't want to do it. You go ahead, though.
But I did help him practice the night before.
Right.
And what parts did you practice doing?
I practiced a couple different parts. One was for like a psychologist type person, like like a counselor. And then the other was a guy that ran like an AA meeting. And I just thought...
Did you get either one of those parts?
I got neither of those parts.
However, a totally different one.
However, they liked my audition, and they said, we kind of have people picked. Actually, they didn't have people picked for one of those parts, but they said, we have another part that we think would be perfect for you. How would you feel about playing the record producer, Mr. Bloomberg? And I said, well, I don't know anything about records or producing or anything like that, but I'm happy to give it a shot. And he was like, yeah, well, of course, it's just a role. You don't need to know about these things. And so I was like, okay, well, if you think that's a good part. So they offered me that part.
Are you trying to say that the actors from ER didn't know actually what they were doing?
Yeah, they weren't actual medical doctors. I just feel like if you play a role where you kind of have some knowledge at least, it helps. Yeah. It helps. And anyway.
All you did need was the attitude.
The tude.
Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully I didn't completely ruin the movie for them. People said they liked how I did. So what we just got back from, before we tell about how this all went together, let's jump forward to the end and tell what we did over the weekend. Like what happened when we went up to Norfolk this weekend. What did we do?
We saw the premiere.
The premiere, and well, what about the premiere? Like what went down?
I don't know. I didn't pay attention the whole time. What went down is the entire community came out to support this film. early in the morning.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a 9:30 a.m. showing, which means people had to get up at 7:30, 8 o'clock on a Saturday, and we thought, is anybody going to come? I hope people come because we don't want the producer to feel bad if nobody comes to his showing. And I was hoping that they would, pack out one screen of the theater. And did they
Because
do
it
that?
was early in the morning. We thought like, yeah, they did that times 5.
Times 5. They filled up 5 different theater rooms. It was on 5 screens. They just kept adding. The theater was awesome because they were prepared in case something like this happened. And the first room filled up. They added a second. I heard about it when they were on their third. I was like, wow, 3 rooms. And then by the end of the day, we heard it had ended up showing on 5 screens. So that was awesome. I don't know what the total attendance was, but just if I had to venture a guess, I'd say probably 400 to 500 people were probably in there.
So you jump to the ending. You're not supposed to do that.
Well, I wanted to tell them why we're talking about this now.
You're supposed to talk about how your auditions were. Like, have you
Okay,
ever
we'll go
tried
back.
out for a movie before, and like, what happened?
Yes, actually, no, I had never tried out for a movie, but I had been in a couple movies, and I've been in a couple when I was in high school. I was in a few commercials on TV, partly because I was interning at a local television station with the production crew, yeah, who made all the commercials. So I ended up getting thrown in several commercials, and I even had a speaking role in. I guess you could say I starred in one commercial with a few friends of mine, and then when I lived in Southern California, I had the amazing opportunity to be in Mega Python versus Gatoroid, which was a super awesome straight to the little screen sci-fi from the Sci-Fi Channel. They have a series of these like Mega versus Giant and stuff, but this was Mega Python versus Gatoroid, starring Debbie Gibson, Tiffany, the other female singer, pop singer of the '80s, and Mickey Dolenz of the Monkees was even in it, and a few other like semi well-known actors too. There was an old lady. I shouldn't say that. There was what's a nice way to say old?
Mature.
There was a mature lady who was a regular on Desperate Housewives back in the day, and I didn't know who she was because I wasn't a regular watcher of the show. And then there was a couple other people that seemed to have like some sort of following. So yeah, that was really fun. That was just a one-night shot. I was just an extra, but I actually did get kind of a prominent scene for an extra. One of the scenes opened with me, and I was chatting with one of the supporting actresses in the movie, and we were standing in front of a champagne fountain, and that was pretty cool.
He was a party goer.
Yeah, but yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then her and I were in a movie in Oregon that was made by a local group. It was part of a church group that they had actually won an award for a movie they had made, and so they put out really good independent films too. And we were in a romantic comedy of theirs. And I also was proud that I got to design the poster for the movie.
This is different.
Yeah, and that movie's called This Is Different, and I think that was a pretty fun movie to do.
So, since you're avoiding, I'm going to draw you back to, what were the auditions like?
Hey, you're the one that led me off on that tangent.
No, I didn't.
She did,
I
didn't
just
she?
wanted you to
Tell us in the
answer
comments.
like, no, I hadn't been in a movie before, so I had never or I had been in a movie, but I've never auditioned before. My auditions went like this.
Oh, well, thank you. Why don't you just tell the folks? So, you want to know how the auditions were?
Yeah.
But
what was the experience
basically,
like?
I went to, they held them at a community college, and we basically just sat down with the producer and one of his main men, Mauricio, who they know lovingly as Momo, and he's a real cool guy. And so they just listened to me, and they were also videotaping it so they could watch it later. And I went dressed nice. I had a sport coat on and a nice get-up because the roles I was trying for the psychologist or the AA guy, I figured they'd both be, somewhat dressed nice, not like super formal, but nice. And they asked me. They said, "Oh, are you dressing as for the role?" And I was like, "Yeah, I figured I'd come as how I picture them to be." And I think that because I dressed nice, they thought of me as the record producer guy. I think that was part of it. They thought I looked like a record producer.
Yeah, I think that's more fitting
So-
anyway.
So anyway, I read lines with. I actually read with the producer, Benjamin Charles Vergitz, and him and I read a scene together, which he taped and then they watched later. And there was a few other people there trying out for different roles, and luckily I got to go first. He knew I had driven all the way from Kansas. I had actually called him. I sent him a message the day before, and then he touched bases with me early that morning. So he knew I was coming a long way, and I had a long way to drive home. So he let me read first, so then I could just split and head home. And it was fun. They were really nice and really warm and welcoming, and I enjoyed the audition. It was fun.
So,
And-
what was the experience like filming since they were so warm and welcoming during just your audition?
Well, filming was a lot of fun. So the director is a really young guy. He's 25 years old, and the kind of the ambiance on the set was just kind of like having a good time. And then when he was ready to film a scene, then everybody would get serious and be like, "Okay, let's take our places," and they'd film. But then in between filming, when they're setting up another scene, everybody would kind of joke around, and we just got to chat, get to know some of the other actors, and it was a lot of fun. It was a really really good time. And it reminded me of when I did that movie in California. It was the same thing. Like in between takes, you got to kind of hang out, and they had a big catering table off set, and you could go and just munch on all kinds of goodies, and it was kind of like that. You could just hang out, and most of the scenes we were in were actually filmed in restaurants, and in one of them we did order some food between takes, and we had a little bite to eat, and that was fun, and just hanging with the cast and getting to know. And then it was really interesting to see them setting up shots too, and finding out like how they light them and where they put the microphones, how they hide the microphones, and do different things. And so each scene is, we would shoot each scene like quite a few times, because he'd set the camera in a certain spot, and we'd read through the lines like 4 or 5 times. Then he'd move the camera to another angle. We do it 4 or 5 times. Then he'd do probably a third angle, and another 4 or 5 times. That way he could, do different cuts back to, different actors. And so filming is a really slow process if you've never been a part of it. Yeah.
Yes. And I was just going to say that, like, you said it was a lot of fun, and I went with you every time you filmed, I believe.
Yeah.
And it takes a perfectionist to make a movie. Like Ben, like you could tell Ben is a perfectionist. He wants all the shots to be set up just right. Like it wouldn't have looked quite as nice if I had done it, because I would just be so impatient. I'd be like, oh, just do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's perfect or not, just do it. But yeah, it's a really slow process, and I found myself very weary over that. I was glad that you just had a small part.
Yeah. Even with my small part, I think all in all we made 5 or 6 trips up there, so it was still a lot.
Yeah.
I think about people that were there. Well, most of the actors were local or somewhat local, although the star, she was from South Carolina, and she had to but she just stayed out there. I think she flew out and stayed for all of her scenes, so she was there for like a month. But yeah, it was quite a bit of driving for us, and good thing I didn't have a bigger role, because it probably would have killed us.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
would have had to live in Nebraska for a bit.
Yeah, or something. He did try to get my scenes like as close together, so to make he did try to help us as much as he could, but sometimes you just can't do them on the same day because other actors aren't available or whatever the case
Yeah,
is.
and it really was like the group of actors and the production crew and his parents. It really did feel like a family affair there, and it was fun to get to know everybody. Like we had some really great personalities to work with. So what's it called when you do your voiceover work? What was the special name he gave to it?
I don't remember.
It's like ADR or something, but not that. I don't think that was right.
Look it up and tell us in the comments
Yeah.
below.
But anyway, so that was the first time that you did that, right?
Yeah,
You
I'd
did
never
your
done that
voice
before.
tracking because they don't get very good audio when they're filming.
Yeah, sometimes there's too much background noise or interference, or so even though he tries to mic the scenes to get good audio, it often doesn't happen. So they had us actually do all of our lines just in case they needed them in a studio, and that's a really interesting process. So what you do is you stand there with a pair of headphones and you're staring at a screen, and then from his computer he's playing. He'll play the clips that you're in, and you have to say into. There's a really nice microphone in front of you, and you say your lines, and you have to match it perfectly to your lips, or pretty darn close to perfect. So most lines you'll say like 5, 6, 7 times to get them just right. And sometimes he can do it where if you got the first half right, then he can save that, and then you can just do the second half. So you don't have to do the whole, like if it's a long several lines.
I got to be in the movie for a little bit. I played his wife. And so I had an easy job of doing my voice tracking because I wasn't ever facing the camera. So I could just say whatever I wanted
Yeah.
and they'd be like, okay, good.
Right, and she got kind of thrown into it. So when we first, part of the reason when I wanted to be in the movie is because I wanted to see how a movie's made behind the scenes, like more in depth than the one I was at in California, for example. I was just there one night, so I didn't really get a whole glimpse of it. So I wanted to see kind of start to finish what a movie's like, and also we wanted to document it for our channel because we like to cover different happenings here in the Midwest. And I had asked him when I originally went up, I said, if I'm a part of this movie, would you mind if we make some behind the scenes stuff for our YouTube channel? And he was actually really welcoming to that because he said that he usually did something like that. And if we were going to do it, then that would kind of take that off of his plate. And he even thanked me after the premiere and everything. He was like, I'm so glad you guys did that because I had so much on my plate. I just didn't need one more thing. Or maybe it was his mom that said he did.
And why
I think his mom said
did
that.
he have so much on his plate?
Oh, because he wore like 10 hats. He was the producer, and he was actually in a few roles. There was a couple roles they couldn't fill, so he played one role himself. And then he was the editor, he was the sound guy, he was, the lighting guy.
In the middle of doing what?
Oh, in the middle of moving, he actually, the director, like halfway, well, once the filming had wrapped, it was in the production stage, and he actually moved to South Carolina. So that was crazy. And he still managed to get this thing done in pretty good time, I would say.
Well, he didn't quite get it done. He had problems with the sound and cutting because he ran out of time because what happened right before they were supposed to show the movie, like a couple of days before they're supposed to show the movie.
Oh, well, several things. I'm not sure which one you're referring to.
Well,
one was
the movie theater calls him up and tells him, hey, the hard drive that you gave us with the movie, it won't sync.
Yeah, it was like the wrong format or something.
Yeah.
I guess
and so what he had already done, he'd already done like a lot of work in the sound, and he had to splice it together last second.
Yeah. Yeah, and the movie we actually saw in the premiere is actually going to be whittled down a little more. Basically, he kind of ran out of time and had to just say, okay, this is what we're going with. So it was about 2 hours and 45 minutes long. And I'm pretty sure he's going to try to get that down under 2 hours. So he said it was kind of like the director's cut, you could say. Yeah. It had a lot of stuff in it, and it's going to be trimmed way down.
Yeah, and the music, background music will be added, and different sounds will be added. They were missing during the showing because of that problem that he had, and he actually did not get any sleep the night before.
Yeah.
But it all went off, and all the people showed up, and they were enjoying a nice movie.
Oh yeah, everybody loved it, and so the premiere, like we were talking about, they opened up 5 different screens, and that was in Norfolk, and then after that, they did a second showing down in the town of Madison, which is about a half an hour south of Norfolk, and that was neat. It was shown at a community center, and one of the ladies that was played a a supporting role in the movie and did an awesome job.
Yeah, she's really funny.
Yeah, she was kind of a big deal in this town of Madison, so she had it shown there and invited the town to come out. And
But before we talk about the next showing, we have to mention the seats in the theater at
they were
Norfolk.
nice.
Why don't you talk about
Yeah,
that?
they had the theater there. It's I think it's called like Cinema 7. They had fully reclining seats. They had and it was electronic. You push a little button and you can get your feet all the way up and get in a real comfy position.
Yeah, they were leather too, I believe. They were like nice.
And it was
really nice.
the whole theater had these nice seats. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and they had a little red carpet out for us. Did they have one there at the Cinema 7? I know they had a red carpet at the second showing.
Yeah, they did at the Cinema 7, and they had a little area where you could get your picture taken next to the
movie poster.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had the poster up on the wall and backlit and everything. It looked real nice, and yeah, they had all the actors and crew, I think, get their picture taken. So that was fun.
And after the movie, I was so ready to eat. I was so hungry. And they provided a really fun party. The parents, Bob and the lady's name.
How can we forget?
Renee.
Yeah,
Bob and Renee. They threw like this fantastic party, and
they are
lots of great
awesome
food.
people. Like Ben could not do what he does if it wasn't for his parents. They are just awesome supporters. They think like whatever he's into, they're going to support that. And like we heard the whole story. I just thought, wow, he's got some really great supportive parents. But yeah, they had the whole thing catered by this really nice restaurant called the 411. If you're ever in Norfolk, check out that restaurant. It's fantastic. They had all kinds of really fun little foods, little sliders and things you could grab.
Yeah, we get to know a lot of different people too, because we weren't with all the people. We were with them at the reading, but we didn't really get to know any of the people during the shooting because his scenes were with different people. So we got to meet all these people there, and then we got to even get to know the guy behind the music behind the movie.
Yeah, that was really fascinating too. So the movie was about a guy who's trying to make it. Him and his band are trying to make it big time, and so he's a singer. So obviously actors, it's not normal that they're also amazing singers. Usually they have to be dubbed. So all the songs he sang, were obviously lip synced. But Ben, the director, had got in touch with this guy from Nevada who, for a living, he does a lot of stuff for a living. But one of the aspects of what he does is he writes really good songs. Like when the music was playing, and I didn't even know this ahead of time until we met him at the after party. But when they were singing the music scenes in the movie, I was like, wow, these are like really good songs. Like, how did he get the rights to these songs? And then we met the guy at the after party, and it was all his work. So he writes these really cool songs and puts his stuff online for like movie producers and stuff to contact him, and they can use his stuff in the movie. And I think sometimes he even like writes stuff for specific movies and stuff. But he was the actual singer. Him and his band were the singers. And he was a dead ringer for Alec Baldwin, which was pretty cool. I was like, are you one of the Baldwin brothers?
His name was Steven, so
yeah, his name was Steven.
Clearly Stephen Baldwin.
No, that wasn't his last name. But and he said, yeah, I get that all the time. Everybody thinks I'm one of the Baldwins. But yeah, real cool guy. And just neat to see how that worked together. And he was, I guess he had just started getting into this type of work, doing the thing for the movies. So he wanted to see how it played out. So he came to the premiere because he wanted to see how they used his music and what it looked like on screen. So, and he was pretty happy with how it turned out. He seemed like he was really supportive of what they had done.
So inquiring minds want to know, would you do it again?
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, that was a blast. I don't know that I would travel so far.
Yeah, that was a bit tiresome.
But if I ever found one, more in my neck of the woods, definitely, for sure, I would love to do that again.
I would if they would say, like, okay, you have to be here at this minute, and then we'll shoot you, and then I'll show up at 5 minutes before.
She didn't like the waiting around, but that's part of a movie.
Didn't.
Part of a movie is, you go there, and it's funny because you go there and you're like, okay, this scene is just like a 5-minute scene. how long can this take? An hour or two? No, a 5-minute scene can often take like 5 hours to shoot. So that's just the nature of the beast. So sometimes you start at like noon and you'd be shooting till, I don't know, sometimes like midnight or so.
We mentioned the director and producer of this film and his struggles with making a film, and it really reminded us of a YouTube video that we had watched just a couple days before we came to the premiere. So we mentioned it to the director that, oh, you got to see this, you'll really relate to it. And it was Austin McConnell, and he made the little recreation or memoir about making a movie called I Made a Movie and It Stunk. I guess it didn't live up to his expectations of what he wanted, but he was also very young. Like, I think he was 23 years old when he made this movie. But he expected it to be like a blockbuster movie, like his first time around. And it just kind of chronicles all his struggles along the way. And it really reminded us of this young director, Ben, and all the things that he went through in making this movie, because it is like a huge, really stressful ordeal.
Yeah.
And I found out when I was looking up this YouTube video that we had watched that this is a common theme among young men that want to get into movie making. They make a feature film and they regret how it turned out when they're younger. But it's just it's a learning process, right? Like,
yeah.
you're not as good as a lot of things that you are now, because it takes so long to master them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like it's kind of, for creatives, it's like the creative person's marathon. You know how a lot of people are like, by the time I'm 30, I'm going to run that marathon. Well, a lot of guys are like, by the time I'm 30, I got to do my first feature-length film. It's just kind of a status. So like the YouTuber she's talking about that made his film and it stunk, that was kind of his thing. He was like,
I think I remember watching that movie with you. I think I remember it. And at the end of it, we were like, what just happened? But I think I do remember watching that movie with you.
But his thing was like, I just gotta, I want to get this done. It was like a life goal. But at the end, he kind of regretted it because he's like, I think I made it just to complete that goal and not because I had a good story to tell or, something great to give to the world. It was just, I gotta get it done. So he kind of wasn't happy. So I would say to up-and-coming producers, do it if you've got a good story to share or something to share with the world, but don't do it as just like, I have to do this, because it's so much work and it will nearly kill you. And if you're just doing it to do it, it's probably going to stink. So
yeah, and you got to have a big support system like Ben did.
Yeah.
In order to do this right. Right,
absolutely. Yep. Yeah, it's not something you want to go at by yourself. He did, even though he wore a lot of hats, he did have a lot of crew. That he had 2 or 3 guys that were part of his crew that helped him out, and of course his parents helped him with a lot of the logistics and stuff. And so yeah, you need a big, deep, support staff to do something like this and make it so it doesn't kill you.
Well, thank you guys for listening in on how we became big-time movie stars.
Big-time Hollywood stars.
That's right.
Boo, boo. And we hope you'll see the film when it comes out. So what's next for it is he's going to release it on the indie film circuit to see if it can garner the festival, to see if it can garner any awards. And the way it works is, it's kind of strange. I don't know who makes these rules, but it's allowed to be shown in a theater, and then once it leaves the theater, it goes on this circuit and it cannot be distributed. So he can't give us a copy or anybody a copy until it's completed its indie film circuit. So that goes for about a year. So probably sometime this time next year, it will be available to the public. And he's in talks with different companies like Netflix and others to have it be part of their streaming service. So in about a year, y'all can probably see it at home on your smart TV.
What's the name again?
My Journey. Oh. Well, we hope you enjoyed this. We hope you learned something. And if there's a movie in your area, I hope you'll also think about getting involved, because it's a really enriching experience and something that you'll look back on and say, I'm glad I did it, I think. So we hope we've inspired you to try out for local movies in your area. And if there's movies debuting in Norfolk, Nebraska, which is just a small town of like 25,000, there's probably one somewhere near you. So go online and search out the movies that are being made and go be in one. I don't think you'll regret it. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed, and God bless. Have a wonderful day.